You're live, Councilor Memhard.
Thank you very much, Sherry. My name is Scott Memhard. I'm the Ward 1 Counselor and Chair of Budget and Finance Committee for the City of Gloucester. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the July 7th Budget and Finance meeting. And with us this evening is Vice Chair Counselor at Large Tony Gross and Counselor at Large Jeff Worthley, as well as our Clerk of Committees, Sherry Carvalhas, our City Auditor, Kenny Costa, and Sel DeStefano, our Economic Development Director. And we also have on the program tonight, John Dunn, the CFO of the city. And unless anybody has any objection, I'll go ahead and take items as posted in our agenda this evening. Seeing none, I'll begin with our remote meeting template. And that is to say that consistent with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend the meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting both in real time and to participate when necessary. Persons who wish to do so are invited to view the instructions on our agenda to log in and participate. That being said, the first item on the agenda relates to the acceptance of donations of 2 lease extensions for 2018 BMW electric vehicles for the police department. Is that something you're going to handle for us, John?
Yes, so we've had these cars for a number of years, and they were donated by Lion Walk Auto out of Danvers, and this is really just an extension of the period that has expired. So this is good for another 12 months. There's not a lot of mileage on these vehicles, but they do get driven on almost a daily basis, and then they come up to City Hall to get recharged at various times. So it's been a good deal. We appreciate the donation from the dealership, Mr. Waugh, and they do this in a number of other communities across the North Shore. So we're happy to participate.
Plus, they're economically efficient and cute.
Yes, they are. All of the above.
So they each have a value of approximately $13,000 to $15,000, I recall from looking through the documentation for the annual period.
Yep.
Any questions from councilors? Any discussion?
I think we're very lucky to have these donations, and I think we should thank him, and then we should accept these with great gratitude.
Yeah, who sends the thank you? The police department, the mayor?
The police department, yes.
Okay,
Perhaps we could do something from the council as well, if there's an appropriate way to do that.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion or questions, I'll go ahead and read the motion. Budget and Finance recommends that the City Council accept under Mass General Law 4453A a donation of 2 lease extensions by the Lion Waugh Auto Group and its affiliate Peabody Motorsports Inc. as lessor and lessee for the use of 2 2018 electric motor vehicles, model BMW i3 Rex, for 1 year. Vehicles are to be leased through the BMW Finance Services through June 2023, at which time the vehicles will be returned to BMW of Peabody in reasonable condition. The first 2018 BMW i3 Rex with a VIN number as noted has a donation value in the amount of $15,285.33. And the second 2018 BMW i3 Rex with VIN as noted has a donation value in the amount of $13,994.42 for a total value of the 2 vehicles together of $29,279.55. And I so move.
Second.
Further discussion?
I think after we accept this at the council level, maybe we should you know, if this is amenable to the council, is ask the chief when he sends it that he, you know, says his thanks on the behalf of city council, and he may want to include the mayor too. You know, not on behalf of, but, you know, including, I think we need to make that clear at the, when we voted at the, oh, will this will be just on consent agenda, would it? Well, we'll pull it off.
So we can certainly pull it off.
Yeah.
I think it'll come out of committee reports, actually, won't it?
I can make
Oh,
sure.
that's true.
that
Yeah,
does.
right. That's right. Yeah, because we stopped doing that in the consent agenda. You're right, Jeff.
Yep. Well, if I don't, I'll rely on one or the other of you to do so.
Just one other question. John, do we provide Warren with something that allows him to use this as a write-off? Is there something we provide back to him?
Well, there's the, excuse me. So yes, there's the basic agreement between the dealership and the city. And they, you know, use that somehow internally to get whatever benefit they can get.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
Councilor Gross?
No, I'm good. Very happy to get this.
Excellent. Well, welcome CAO Jill Cahill and also Carol Mondello, our tourism czar at Stage Fort Park. Seeing no further discussion, motions are made and seconded. Roll call vote. Councilor Gross,
Yes.
Councilor Worthley,
Yes.
Councilor Memhard. Yes, motion passes unanimously by a vote of 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you. Item number 2 on our agenda this evening is a memorandum from the Economic Development Director, Sal I always want to say your name one way or the other way. I'm never sure what's the correct way. DiStefano.
DiStefano, perfect.
Okay. Requesting our acceptance of the $2,500 Essex National Heritage Commission grant for the Stage Fort Park Welcoming Center's 2022-2023 season, which is upon us. And I don't know, Sal or Carol would like to speak to this, or both.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. We're really excited to once again receive this grant of $2,500, and we're seeking your approval for acceptance. We're lucky enough to get this grant from the Essex Heritage National Foundation for support of our visitors center. We have Carol Mondello, as you mentioned, who's the director of the center, on the phone with us. We're lucky to have her. She works really hard, and I'd like to use this opportunity for her to give a little bit of an update of what's going on. They just recently opened, but I did want to point out in a report she just submitted that, 558 volunteer hours were tallied in just over a month since the end of May by our volunteers from Gloucester who help visitors and give them direction and are kind of like the welcoming face of the city for people visiting from all over the world. 2,870 visitors, give or take, since then. So there's a lot going on, a lot of work happening behind the scenes. And if Carol wouldn't mind jumping on now to talk a little bit about it and what she hopes to use the money for, and also anything else. Carol.
Thanks for having me. And I'm going to keep
Welcome,
with the,
Carol.
Thank you. I'm going to keep that tourism czar. I like it. I like that one. So this is my 5th year. And obviously, the last 2 have been challenging. But I was looking at my numbers this morning, and like Sal said, I do send in the report monthly to Essex National Heritage. That's part of the grant. So I send in our kind of daily number breakdown as well as our volunteer hours. And I was amazed when I counted them all up. 6 weeks, we had like 550 volunteer hours. I am back up to 30 volunteers. And that's what I had in 2019. And I compared the numbers to 2019 and we're right there. So I'm really happy. And the last year's grant, actually 2 years ago grant, the 2020 grant, we got new maps, for the wall, and I love them. We worked with the Chamber and Discover Gloucester on that to use their maps, and they're beautiful. You guys should always come and visit them. They really represent what we have to offer here. And my volunteers love them, and they're a crowd that are sometimes hard to please. So I want to thank you for considering this, and we not sure what I'm going to do with this year's grant yet. I'm always a year behind spending. I think last year's is going to go to some new signage, which is great because the signage down on the boulevard is not in tip-top shape. So we're happy to be able to use that for that. Essex Heritage is pretty flexible in what we use it for. It's typically for printing, but as long as we credit them, they're pretty cool. So they're a great organization to work with. And that's all for me. Thanks again.
Thank you, Carol. And I want to thank the volunteers that work so hard in there, and we're lucky to have them. So happy to answer any questions that the council has.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you, Sal. Councilors,
Carol, can you tell us again how many volunteers you have?
I have 30.
30, okay.
And an assistant. Yeah, an assistant, which is great too. I think the highest I've ever had was 32, and that was, I want to say 2018 or 19. So I had 12, but we were skeleton crew in 2020. So we're happy to be building it back up.
That's fantastic. Great job.
Thank you.
and thanks to the DPW, the place is looking great as well.
It is. It's beautiful. The new porch. I keep the rocking chairs out there now, and it was nice to, even in October last year after we closed, people were still sitting on them and reading a newspaper in the morning, and that's the best way to use the park for me.
Yeah, it's
Not a bad place to sit on a porch. Councilor Worthley, did you have anything you wanted to ask or say?
No, first, full disclosure, I'm not exactly sure how we're related, Carol, but we might be. My mom's a Mondello, so there's no fiduciary issues here. There's no conflict of interest. I just want to disclose that. Forgive me for not knowing, Carol.
No, that's fine. I don't know either. Somebody's cousins of somebody, but not sure exactly. Yeah.
My grandfather was Gene Mondello. Bill, Gino, Arlene, and Joanne.
Okay, my grandfather is Joe the cobbler, so they're brothers.
We're
Yeah.
like cousins or something like that. So,
Yeah.
anyway, there's no fiduciary issues between us on this, so there's no conflict of interest. I spent a lot of time at Sageford Park with my kids, and also when I was working with the Chamber of Commerce for the Tourism Center. It's a beautiful facility. I love what you're doing. I had a constituent ask me back in maybe March if we could get the sign painted at the Rotary or updated. And the information I got back from the mayor's office was yes, but we're looking for funding. So I don't have any control how you spend the money. I just want to know that that's out there as an idea. But I'm happy to support this regardless of how you spend it. It's a great organization, Essex National Heritage, and glad to see we got this grant. Good work.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, the one at the Rotary may be tough, but we will do, we're covering the one that's at Stage Fort. So that's because we're an Essex Heritage site. So, but yeah, yes, we definitely need to do one at the Rotary as well.
Thank you for bringing this to us and the work that you do.
Indeed, and wish you a drier summer than we had last July. If there are no further questions, I'll go ahead and read our motion. Budget and Finance recommends that the City Council accept under Mass General Law 4453A, a federal grant from the National Park Service passed through the Essex National Heritage Commission, a 2022 Essex Heritage Visitor Center grant for a total of $2,500 for the purpose of supporting activities of the city's Visitor Welcome Center at Stage Fort Park. The grant period is from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. There is no local match for this grant, and I so move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote. Councilor Gross,
Yes.
Councilor Worthley,
Yes.
Councilor Memhard, yes. Motion passes on a 3-0 vote, unanimous. Thank you very much, Carol and Sal.
Thank you, counselors. Have a great night.
We're doing what Councillor Worthley likes to point out. We're gratefully accepting lots of money here. So one after another. Item number 3 on our agenda is a memorandum from the DPW director requesting acceptance of donations made to the Cemetery Advisory Committee in the amount of $1,000. John, are you going to present that for us tonight as well?
Yes, so you have seen
You're feeling the spirit?
donations and grants in the past that have gone to the Cemetery Advisory Committee. They generally use these for historic stone restoration work. I don't know exactly how they do it, but I believe a number of months ago, they presented us with some fair amount of detail on what stones look like and what various recommendations are. So we would certainly like to accept this donation to continue that work.
Indeed. Thank you. I understand that the donor is the daughter of Helen Garland. Is that correct, according to the background package?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the details, Counselor, but that's what it
Okay.
seems to be to me. Yep.
Any Councillor questions? We're protecting our history here in Gloucester. Seeing no questions, I would move to recommend that the City Council accept a cash donation under Mass General Law 4453A to support the Cemeteries Advisory Committee in the amount of $1,000 for the purpose of general cemetery stone restoration from the following member of our community, Anna B. Carlson, for $1,000, and I so move.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Councillor Gross,
Yes.
Councillor Worthley,
Yes.
and Councillor Memhard, yes. The donation is gratefully accepted unanimously by the Budget and Finance Committee, 3-0. The next item is again an acceptance of a donation, and this one relates to the Veteran Services. John, are you wearing all hats tonight? Is that?
Well, I guess I am.
It's either you or Jill or Ed.
So again, we've seen donations come through for benefit of veteran services. It seems to be a fairly regular occurrence these days, basically once a month, once every 6 weeks. And this is kind of in the same way as we're seeing donations for Council on Aging. So this is a wonderful thing for the community. We certainly appreciate the support from all of those who are donors. And this is $125 from 25 from Vincent Orlando and 100 from Ed Camo for the benefit of the veterans.
Excellent. Any councillor questions? Seeing none, I'll move that the City Council accept cash donations under Mass General Law 4453A to support Cape Ann Veteran Services in the amount of $125 from the following members within our community. As John noted, Vincent Orlando and Ed Camo for a total of $125, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Roll call vote. Councillor Gross,
Yes.
Councillor Worthley,
Yes.
Councillor Memhard, yes, and very gratefully. Motion passes on a vote of 3-0 unanimously. The main item on our agenda this evening appears to be the memorandum from the city auditor regarding accounts having expenditures exceeding their authorization and our auditor's report and other related business. So turn it back over to Kenny and to John.
Thank you. As you know, the fiscal year 22 has come to an end, and we have accounts that are in a deficit. And this is an annual occurrence. We do this every year. So as far as the report, we have 45 accounts that are in a deficit. Previously, we had 57. If you've noticed, the Council on Aging, you approved the formula grant last time around, so that's not on the list this time. And then also the school, there's 3 accounts remaining. We've communicated that to them, but as you can recall, last time around, there was many more accounts from the school that are in a deficit. So today you did receive an email from John with the cleanup, with the year-end transfers, and I'll turn it over now to John to discuss. And Councilman Memhard, do you want to bring up the actual SPT? It's rather large, it's about 43 lines. It's SPT 4.
Why don't we let John speak first, and then let's bring it up so that we can just review it as people want to do so.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Kenny. So again, this is something, as Kenny mentioned, that we do sometime in the June 45th period. And this year was a little bit more complicated given the timing of the July 4th holiday, as well as the meetings of your meeting of BNF and the next meeting of the full city council next week. So we scrambled a little bit to get the information. Fortunate that, you know, pretty much everything worked out and it was pretty obvious where the problems were and what the solutions would be. So this is really just a situation where in some cases, we're just moving from, for example, ordinary expenditure accounts to salary accounts in the same department. But again, in order to do that, we need your approval. In other cases, we are moving from a particular department to another department. Again, we need your approval for that. You know, this is, again, something that we have done almost every year. Well, certainly in the 8 years that I've been here. And the big issue, as it often is covering a snow and ice deficit. This year, the totality of the snow and ice deficit approached $1.1 million. So a lot of these transfers that you see in the first document really go from various other department accounts or accounts elsewhere within DPW back to snow and ice. One of the biggest moves is that we are actually proposing a transfer from available free cash again to snow and ice. And this really is just because it's a little bit easier. I suspect that at the end of the year, even accounting for this transfer, that there will be turnbacks within the general fund that will more than cover this. But in order to do that with just transfers from various other lines within the general fund budget, probably would have added 75 to 100 new accounts to this. So rather than deal with 3,000 here, 2,000 there, we elected to do it with a transfer from free cash in the amount of $486,000. And again, it is my thought that that will be more than covered by the totality of the positive variances within general fund expenditure accounts at the end of the year.
A lot of moving parts,
A
as
lot of
always.
moving parts, yes.
Do councilors want to go ahead and have the exhibit put up on the board, or are we working from our documents in hand? What do you prefer?
I can see it, but I don't know if Jeff needs it.
Oh, I've got it. I would argue that maybe if there's anybody from the public that's on here that, you know, we got this. There weren't any other counselors that got this, as far as I know. But anybody who wants to go back and look at a recording to
We
review
don't have
it,
any attendees, but yeah, okay, yeah, recording.
just for full disclosure, right? I don't know if it's
okay.
easy to share it or not. Okay.
Does everybody see it?
Yeah,
Yep.
kind of
Far away.
glad I can read it on my screen, on
You
Another
you can
screen.
make it larger if you want.
How's that?
that's good.
As you can see, it's about 43 lines, $1,147,000. And also, as John mentioned, I mean, there was a lot of other ordinary budget transfers within departments that you didn't see. So there was a lot of work that went into this prior to this budget transfer.
I have some questions. Is it time for that?
It is indeed, Councilor Gross. Please proceed.
All right, what is TC, T/C?
Treasurer collect.
Treasurer collector.
Oh, okay. I was too lazy to go to my budget book. I figured I'd ask you guys. There's a pretty significant number here, 245,000 being transferred into police uniform. Did we raise our FY '23 budget by that much to cover this, or?
Yes, we did. So if you remember, actually during the budget review process in the spring, it was mentioned that there was a mistake made in the interpretation of the contract for the 2022 budget, and police uniform and CID were shortchanged. So that's why we had a fairly significant increase from 2022 to 2023 in the police budgets. So yes, we did correct it in 2023, and then this is the correction for 2022.
Great. Great. And then I just had another question about down to line 39. That seems like a big surplus out of that public services wages account, 130,500. Is that because we just haven't filled some positions?
Those are, yes, those are positions that have not been filled. Yep.
Okay. All right. And it's nice to see school choice money coming back. Is that because the state overestimated how many kids were going out, or is that because we got kids back, or you can't answer that question?
Well,
You got three choices, A, B, or C.
an overestimate by the state. As you know, the state comes out with school choice out, and then the various monthly accounts fluctuate through the year as they make adjustments to that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this is. So I just took a look at the totality of the state ins and outs for the city of Gloucester for the year. It's published by month. So I had the full year information and saw that there was some available within that line and decided to use it.
All right, perfect. And what you talked about, I guess it'll be our next, forget it, it's our next motion anyway. I won't go there. All right, I'm good.
I would like to point out that the council very generously took its $25,000 professional line item budget, which would have been for the audit that we were trying to get underway on several different city departments. And we're giving it up for snow and ice, this budget.
Yes, nicely done. Thank you very much. But you have another bite at that apple in the 2023 budget. So we'll see where it goes.
Thank you.
Good
Councilor Wortley?
behavior, and we may not need it.
Yeah, that's true.
I do have some questions, but bear with me because we got this a little bit late in the day. Thank you, John, for sending this. So just bear with me as I kind of formulate my questions here. Firstly, is this properly before us in the sense that every 2 weeks we have a memorandum from the city auditor regarding accounts having expenditures which exceed their authorization? This is a transfer of $1.6 million or so. Did we advertise this the right way? That's not really listed on our agenda as such. Just want to make sure we're crossing all our T's and dotting all our I's.
Yes, we are allowed to present this way at this time of year. And again, as I mentioned, I've been doing it this way, along with Kenny and input from the departments for the past 8 years. This might be the 9th year. I'd have to check. And it had been done by my predecessor beforehand. I don't know, Kenny, have you seen you've pretty much seen something like this every year that you've been here? Is that correct?
Yes, I think this is like my 13th year seeing that presented this way. So we talked about this in BNF probably about 12 years ago. At the time, the committee agreed that it could come under my report. So that's why when you look at and plus we talk about deficits every 2 weeks. And the language where it says auditors report in other related business, that caveat kind of covers the whole thing. And I can tell you at the time it was Councilor Hardy, McGarry, and Kukuru. And we talked about that, and they thought it was perfectly fine for it to come out of the report.
Okay, I don't have any issues on that. The second question is, this document on the screen says 1.6 million. The document that we received in the email is, I'm sorry, the document on the screen is I can't see the screen now, but the document I have says 1.6 million. The one on the screen was, there's something in front of it, but far less than that. 1.1 maybe.
So the SBT is 1,147,000, and then the supplemental appropriation is 486,000.
From free cash.
That's the 1.6.
Right. So I'm seeing a combined number on the document that we have.
No, you have to look at the second motion at the bottom.
Right. I'm just looking at my documents. I can't see the screen now because the other dialogue box is open in front of it. So then my third question is, if there was something before O&A or planning and development, and there was a document like this, all the councils would have got it. Do all the councils get this in their packets? And if not, can we make sure that they do?
Yeah, so typically for the city council meeting, they will receive this well before the meeting. I mean, I can tell you, we've actually even had special budget and finance meetings, even the day of the city council. I do recall in the past having that, because there are times where there's, because we're still, we still have payroll that's coming out of the prior year. So I know at times in the past, we've had a special, budget and finance meeting just to have it open, just to have it there in case we need it if we missed anything. So typically, the year-end transfers at times, I mean, they are very, could be very last minute.
Okay, I understand that. So John, you said this was sort of a last minute scramble that happens every year. I respect how hard it was to put this together. I'm sure I couldn't do it. I tried to get $30,000 finding that in the whole budget this year. And I give you credit for finding 1.6 million in the last couple of days here. I have a philosophical question to ask. If it hadn't snowed as much as it did, if we didn't spend as much money as we did in snow and ice, what would we be doing with this $1.6 million? Would it be spent? Would it be going to free cash?
Well, it could potentially have been spent by moving funds around earlier in the year, but typically it will probably happen the vast majority of the time is that it will just close out the free cash. So yes, you're right.
I don't recall how much we budgeted for snow and ice for next year. Does anybody know that off the top of their head?
The same amount.
Yeah.
So
Same amount
it's
of-
about $780,000.
Right. So I have, this is my first year on budget and finance ever. Do we ever have a year where that number is budgeted appropriately and we have an excess in that budget that we can say, great, it didn't snow so much, we have more money, or are we always undercutting that?
So about 1 in 5 years, we spend at or less than the budget. In 4 of 5 years, we spend more. And this is fairly typical of pretty much all 351 cities and towns in the state. So we're all kind of doing the same thing. That's just the approach. We're all scrambling at the end of the year to cover snow and ice deficits. In smaller communities, it's maybe $10,000-12,000. In a large community like Gloucester, with the number of miles of roads we have, it's significant.
Right. My internet cut out for a second, so I missed a part of that. You don't need to repeat it. I'll listen to it unless you want to. But if 4 out of 5 years we're under budgeting, should we be considering, again, this would be for the following budget year, because we just finished 2023, but should we be considering having a number that's more reflective of what we typically spend? Just,
Well, the problem is that with snow and ice budgeting, once you increase it to a certain amount, you can never decrease it. So the danger here is that we say, all right, we're going to increase it to 1.2 million. Well, it can never be less than that. So you're stuck.
you mean if we didn't spend 1.2 million, if we spend the 750,000, for example, the following year, we'd have to keep it at 1.2?
We would have to budget it at 1.2, yes. So that would have an effect on budgeting. Yep.
I understand. Okay.
If
Uh,
if I may,
Please.
I just wanted to add, so I just pulled up the Munis. I know John had mentioned these numbers before, but I just wanted to share with you, this is straight from our system, from our Munis system. Can everybody see the numbers? So just so how you can see the numbers fluctuate. So this is snow and ice in totality. So back in 2014, we budgeted 650,000 and we ended up spending 1.4. And then in 2015, as you recall, that was the big snow event, the big year. We budgeted 650 and we expended $3.5 million. So we had gone from one year 1.4 to 3.5. And then in the next year, we went down to 986. And that was the first year in 2016, we increased the budget to 766, 600. And then in 2017, we were again at 1.4.
Okay.
And in 2020, we were at 626,000. And then we had a surplus of 140,000. But as you can see, the 140, because we have a base, that 140 was literally, I know we've talked, it was frozen because we couldn't use those funds to, on something else. Like we couldn't take that 140. And then in 2021, we expended 840,000. And then as you can see this year, we've expended 1.8 and we budgeted 766. So I just kind of wanted you to see, I feel like I just gave you a good, about a 10-year history on snow and ice. So where it fluctuates quite a bit, where you could have a year where it's 600,000, or you could have the 3.5 million, which, as you can see, it's very, very difficult to budget.
Right. So I definitely see that trend. John, you said it 1 out of 5. Looks like 1 out of 10 or whatever that was, 2015.
That was 30%.
30% of the times we budgeted correctly, is that what you're saying?
30% of the time, yeah, it was under or even. There was 3 years there in a row that were even or under.
Mhm.
And it really hampers you if you have a lean budget year, because with snow and ice, if you have a tough year, you can take 3 years to pay it off. And it allows you to keep teachers in the classroom. It allows you to keep police on the street, firemen in the fire stations. It allows you not to have to make those cuts. If you lock yourself into a higher number, you're going to be screwed at some point down the road. You're going to be firing people.
I understand. And it might be a year we didn't have any snow and you
Could
still
be.
select a budget like that. I
Yeah.
understand it. Thank you for teaching me about this. The last question is, how do the decisions get made? And I'm not ever going to interfere with administration. I'm guessing that the mayor's office says each department and maybe with treasurer, collector, auditor's office, what funds haven't been spent yet, but do the department heads offer these funds and say, hey, we don't need this, take it? How does that work? How does that play out?
Well, effectively, yes, they offer the funds because Kenny starts putting out memos in May, telling department heads that they have to encumber funds. If they don't encumber the funds, then they become free funds. So yes, I don't get on the phone and call somebody and say, oh, account number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Are you going to use that? If they haven't encumbered it, they can't use it. So essentially, those encumbrances say what we think we're going to have to pay for the balance of the fiscal year. And then the rest of it is basically free. Now, it may be, a lot of the accounts come down to absolutely zero available. Other accounts have $2.33. Other accounts might have $200,000 for a variety of reasons. So yeah, it's all over the place. And we kind of scramble to look at all 850 accounts in the general fund when we're doing this.
I give you guys a lot of credit. How was the decision made for the city council funds to be part of this, if I may ask?
In the same manner, they were available. There was no encumbrance there. There was no intention to spend it within the fiscal year of 2022.
So it wasn't a council decision. It's because we didn't encumber it.
So actually, it was a decision. You decided not to encumber it.
We had the opportunity to try and pay for that audit, and we put out a request for proposals. We went through a review process, and in the course of that discussion with the new administration and the impacted departments, we elected not to proceed, in part because the available funds were insufficient to cover the base job description for that audit.
I see. So this council didn't vote for that. We just didn't move forward on the audit. So that created this.
We were unable to put that in place. We tried to negotiate a contract and we failed to.
I understand that we have a mandate for something where we need to have additional staff person in the clerk's office for, I think, same day registration. I'm aware of a conversation with the mayor's office about funding that at some point. But we couldn't, you're saying we couldn't have done anything with that because it had to be spent in 2022. Okay.
So yes, and particularly if it's for salary. So you could, for example, have gotten into a contractual situation with a vendor for an ordinary expenditure and have that contract available but unspent by June 30, but you would expect to spend it sometime in the following fiscal year because you've got a contract and it's encumbered. But that really doesn't work with salary lines. You really can't, plan on spending something in 2023 because it's available in 2022.
I understand. So my last question, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, is just regarding the free cash that's going to pay for this, the $486,000.
Next motion.
Let's finish this one first.
Sorry, I don't, for some reason, I'm only looking at the one that has a total. I don't have these separated out. So
Then he sent out the separated one.
There's the second page of the draft motion that Kenny circulated this afternoon.
I'm sorry. I didn't see
John, yours came sideways.
Yeah.
Hard to read.
That's not a reflection of his calculations.
No.
that.
Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So do we want to vote on the first thing and then come to this, or?
Yes, there are two motions. Are there any other questions or discussion on the first items on the total $1,147,000?
Can we do it as one lump sum, or we don't have to do this as individual transfers, do we?
We'll do it as one lump sum
Thank you.
with this exhibit as in setting out the detail. Councilor, questions, further discussion?
Good work, by the way, John and Kenny. It's not easy.
Definitely.
I give you guys a lot of credit for this.
I would recommend that the city council approve the following special budgetary transfer 2022 SBT 4 for the purpose of funding and making whole fiscal year 2022 account deficits totaling $1,147,000 in the following accounts. And the accounts are listed and total $1,147,000. And I so move.
Second.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Counselor Gross,
Yes.
Counselor Worthley,
Yes.
Counselor Memhard, yes. Motion passes unanimously, 3-0, and with gratitude for the treasurer's and auditor's efforts on this with the administration. And then the remaining matter before us is to recommend that the city council approve supplemental appropriation 2022 SA 30 in the amount of $486,000 from the general fund, undesignated fund balance, free cash account as noted to the city general fund, DPW, snow and ice removal, salting, snow removal, snow plow and salting, account as noted to cover the fiscal year 2022 snow and ice deficit, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Jeff, you had a question?
I do. I don't know who's on the phone, if they could mute themselves, though. It's just, I get so distracted, so I'm sorry.
I'll see if I can turn that off. Sorry, I have an incoming call.
I'm sorry. Well, you can't mute yourself if you're the chairperson. I'm sorry, Scott. My question is specific to free cash. My understanding is if we don't encumber it all in this fiscal year, it falls to the state's review and it's not available to us until probably January or February. Is that correct? And or is there anything left after this transfer? Maybe I should start with that question.
Yes, that is correct. So now with, with this appropriation, there'll be a remaining amount, which is $637,569.94. That will fall to the bottom line. It'll be the starting point of the next free cash calculation that typically happens in the fall. At that point. Sorry, what was your second question?
Well, the first question was, I asked my questions in reverse. How much would be left? So I think you said 686,000, right?
Yep.
And then unless it's encumbered in the next, 8 days, that money can't be spent until it's recertified in October, November, December with results in January, February, right?
Correct. Yes, that's correct. Okay.
I think it's a question probably directed to the mayor's office for themselves to consider. Is there something to spend the money on now that we might need it? If the money's held up for 8 months, earning nothing, is there something we should be looking at to spend that money on the next week? Or at least encumbering it?
Well, you're right, Counselor, that we really can't get back to free cash until probably sometime in late October, November, once it's certified by the Department of Revenue. However, we have $10 million plus in stabilization funds.
Mhm.
So again, those are available in the same manner as free cash would be. And we could appropriate from that today. So yes, we have to wait for free cash to be certified and approved and for the council to distribute it. But we do have other reserves that would allow us to fill a need if that need is identified before free cash is certified. So we can do what we need to do.
Okay.
And-
One asterisk is that there is one difference. It needs 6 votes to come out of the stabilization, I think, versus 5 votes of the council for free cash. That's my understanding.
That would be a difference, yes.
Small.
And I just,
Can I, this is FY 21 free cash, correct?
so what was certified, it's the remaining amount. So it's part of the fiscal year 21 close. So the fiscal year that's closing now in the fall, that'll be the results of fiscal year 22. And just for this appropriation, the 486 for snow and ice, where it is a legal deficit. However, DOR, there is separate reporting on snow and ice. So they want to verify that the snow and ice deficit is covered. And if it's not covered, it's something that they will require you to raise on the tax rate. So this is something that, we have to, as I mentioned in the past, the snow is gone, and we've paid the bills, but this is what's remaining, and it has to be either appropriated or raised on the tax rate. It has to be accounted for, it has to be paid for, and this is something that DOR does look at closely, that they do verify. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
So this is, as Kenny said, it's a much cleaner way to do this now than to have to do it within the tax rate certification in the fall.
If I could add, I know it's not always popular to give credit to the prior administration, but we started this calendar year, with $5.5 million in free cash, and I think that we should at least give credit where credit's due. That's good budgeting and tight management of a budget, and I think we should be grateful that we have this, because otherwise we'd be cutting programs. Crickets. I understand. Scott, you're muted, so I didn't hear that snarky comment yet. I'm eager.
I would never make a snarky
Scott
comment.
doesn't make snarky comments. He's better than that.
Although the phone call was from Suzanne Altenberger, so I was lucky that I didn't pick it up. And I know we are recording.
Snarky wasn't the right word. Entertaining might have been the right word to use. But anyway,
Oh, now you're gone, Jeff.
There's justice where justice is due.
Yeah, I was gonna say the mute gods got you, Jeff. You were just frozen out completely during that whole thing.
that's okay. We can just consider it an edit to the recording.
So are there further specific questions or discussion on the remaining motion for the free cash of $486,000 to be applied here?
No, one point I just want to make is that I know that all the financial organizations, bonding and things like, and the state auditors very much frown upon you carrying a debt when you have this kind of money that you have readily available to pay your bills. So I know that is it's not a healthy fiscal policy to, when you got money in the bank, you need to pay your credit card. So, or the
And
interest goes up.
as Jeff did point out, we're lucky that the prior administrations had set up a policy of trying to reserve these different funds and build our reserve
Absolutely,
capacity.
absolutely. But these
And
two
the
guys,
city's been managed in such a way to make that
these two guys
possible.
had no small part in that, because I know I set up stabilization accounts on the little tiny budget that I had on the waterways board with these two years ago, prior administrations.
Tony, we worked on that together with Paquette.
Right. And I think John later on too. Yeah. Yep, we did. Squared that away. So
Oh, thank you.
now there's no money to worry about.
I'll go. That's a different kind of problem.
That's
Well,
for
you-
another day.
You put it to good use.
Yep. Of course, part of it blew up the other day.
Yes, so it did. Looking forward to an update from TJ and Waterways on that problem.
Well, there's a new engine that's being mounted as we speak.
Well, that's
Probably not at this hour, but earlier today. But as we know how
Great.
those things
Thank
go, any hiccup, Murphy's Law tends to take over.
Well, that's great news that that's been dealt with in such good timely manner. So I'm going to go ahead and make the motion to recommend that the city council approve supplemental appropriation 2022 SA 30 in the amount of $486,000 from the general fund undesignated fund balance, free cash account as noted to the city general fund, DPW, snow removal, snow plow, and salting account is noted to cover the fiscal year 2022 snow and ice removal deficit. And I so move.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Counselor Gross,
Yes.
Counselor Worthley,
Yes.
Counselor Memhard, yes. The motion passes unanimously with a vote of 3 in favor, 0 opposed. And it's put to bed thanks to your efforts.
Good work.
Any other business to come before the committee?
Not tonight. Motion to adjourn.
Adjournment.
Seeing none, a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Roll call vote.
So-
Counselor
so
Gross,
moved. Yes.
Counselor Worthley,
Yes.
Counselor Memhard, yes. The motion passes unanimously, and to all a good night.
Good night and bon appetit.
Thank you very much. Have a good
Bye-bye.
night.
Good work.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you,
You're welcome.
Sherry.
You're welcome.
Good night.